noted, and I call the member for Goldstein.
Well, thank you, Mr Deputy Speaker. And can I start my address by just echoing the sentiments and the words of so many of my parliamentary colleagues from across this side and the other side of the parliament. When you get the members for Isaac, Sturt, Melbourne Ports, Fadden, Eden Monaro, Kooyong and Canning all on the same page, it's a reflection, obviously, of the unity of the substance of the issue in paying homage and respect to the life and the times and the achievements of Shimon Peres. And it is an honour to rise and speak on the condolence motion, not just on behalf of myself, but also of the people of Goldstein, of which there is a significant section, includes a significant section of Melbourne's Jewish community. And I know that in reflection on the speeches that have already been provided today, there are so many eloquent words that have encapsulated his life, his legacy, and I don't want to unnecessarily repeat them, but just to acknowledge how strong some of these speeches have been in terms of recognising his achievements. Because Shimon Peres' political leadership and contribution spanned so many offices held within that country. To be in a position not just to be an opposition leader but Prime Minister and President, nobody would dispute is an incredible achievement in its own right. But power is only worth the extent to which you use it, and to try and build the type of country that Israel could be so it can provide peace and security for so many people who live in that, at that time, the relatively new state. And at the time of his retirement, he was the oldest head of state around, and that he was the last link to Israel's founding generation, something that can't be ignored. We all realise the very difficult circumstances that Israel has always faced in its time, in its modern existence. And yes, there have always been times of conflict, but it's important to recognise somebody's legacy, particularly as their contribution to peace in the Middle East. And during Peres's term as Foreign Minister in the second Rabin administration, he was in charge, in cooperation with Yitzhak Rabin, of the peace process with the Palestinians. He directed the covert negotiations in Oslo at the end of the agreement that was signed by Foreign Ministry Director Yuri Savir and Palestinian Authority Representative Abu Allah in the presence of Shimon Peres. This signing and the letters of mutual recognition exchanged by Rabin and Arafat led to the signing of the Declaration of Principles regarding interim self-government arrangements at a festive ceremony held at the White House by Yitzhak Rabin, Yasser Arafat and US President Bill Clinton. These sorts of achievements have been discussed all throughout the morning, but they have resonated, of course, not just in this place in words and rhetoric, but also across the world. I guess a lot of people have been asking, how is it that somebody who is known for their contribution, not just in terms of their hawkish, sometimes necessarily hawkish behaviour, can also have dovish views? And to quote a Time magazine article that went through the life and times of Yitzhak Rabin, Shimon Peres, apologies, he's come to believe that peace with the Palestinians was in the end in Israel's national interests, and recognise that there was an important part of having a two-state solution to enable a situation where Israel could survive but also could work with its neighbours to achieve peace. And is particularly noting that Israel's nuclear program, Peres argued that the historic Oslo Accords he helped negotiate with the Palestinians would not have been possible. And that's the contribution, not just of somebody who is able to be in a position to set the tone of their country, help build it, preserve it and secure it, but also to be a pragmatist about how to build its future. And that is as much what we pay honour to today as well. In particular, I was moved by a quote by Shimon Peres in terms of the vision of his country and what can be achieved, and particularly moved by the idea that optimists and pessimists die the exact same death, but they live with very different lives. And that is in the end what we are honouring today. We all have our own contribution to make in this place and across the world, but often the conclusion of our work and our life lives well beyond us. So Shimon Peres's legacy has been one now that rests with eternity, but it has been to make a contribution to the building of the State of Israel, to secure it and to live well beyond him.
I thank the member for Goldstein. The question is that the statement made by the Prime Minister be noted, and as a mark of respect, I ask all present to signify their approval by rising in their places. I thank the House.